Hi, and welcome to Moments with Melonie. I'm your host, Dr. Melonie Boone. I am a business psychologist, thought leader, global executive, and your guide to self-discovery. I created this podcast as a way to share my experiences and my thoughts to help others in guiding self-development and growth. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about something that is actually very, very close to me and one of the ideal topics for my first episode. And it's all about changing ourselves and growing beyond our comfort zone. So for those of you all who don't know me very well, I have lived in Chicago most of my life. I always say I had a couple of detours when my husband was in the Navy, but we settled back in Chicago, and Chicago has been home. Um, since the last episode of Intel Noir that was filmed last year, I've gone through some significant change myself. And so, I took the leap and I took a job in Rhode Island. I moved the family here. I have taken on, a number of challenges that were all scary. And there's times where I wonder, did I make the right decision? Which I absolutely know I did. But those are the types of things that challenge us when we push ourselves to change. And in this podcast, I also want to give you just some guidance and some grounding in some of the theory and the research that we see around some of the challenges that we face with change. And so I'll be completely transparent. I have a horrible memory. You may see me look down. You may see me grab a piece of paper. I actually want to make sure that I am able to give the best and most current information that is not clouded by some of my temporary memory lapses. This podcast also is being recorded with no breaks, no stops, no edits, because I've always believed in the power of just being kind of authentically yourself, not being heavily scripted. So I will mess up. I will make mistakes. I will mix my words and all of that good stuff. And then also, this is just very big for me. I have done a podcast originally with a partner. This is the first time doing something by myself, which is another opportunity that I'm using to push myself out my comfort zone and to be able to get out there and connect and do the one thing that I am most passionate about, which is helping others. So without further ado, we'll get into the first episode, which is called Growing Beyond Your Comfort Levels. And we're talking about how to get beyond your comfort zone. And so in today's episode, we're going to dive into this topic. Like I said, is very near and dear to me. I have some amazing examples of how I've been able to be resilient during this change for myself, and how crucial it is for your personal and professional career to really be able to take that leap, to step outside of your comfort zone, to look for ways to evolve, ways to be different, and ways to grow. So let's get into it. I want to start with the science behind your comfort zone. And so I'll get super nerdy for a few minutes and then I'll bounce back out. But that's just kind of, again, for those who know me, how I am. But we'll start with the basics. So a comfort zone is defined by psychologists as a psychological state where an individual feels at ease, experiences minimal stress, and engages in activities that are familiar or routine to them. So for me, that sounds great, right? Like doing all of the things I love, being here in my living room, in front of my fire, relaxing, having the same friends for years, working a job for a long time. If you have, like, those are all kind of like what we have as our safe spaces and our comfort zones. But there's a catch to that. So when you stay too comfortable, you can start to really stunt your professional and personal growth. Research also shows that when you step outside of your comfort zone, it can lead to enhanced performance. It leads to increased resilience and greater adaptability. So as much as we all try to avoid stepping outside of our comfort zone, and as much as we try to stick with things that are familiar, people who are familiar, there also are just like some really great benefits for stepping outside and like doing something new and different. So I also found like there was a study in the Journal of Experimental Psychology from 2013, and it said that individuals who engaged in new and challenging activities experienced improved cognitive function, and then also greater problem solving skills. And I think we all know that when we've gone super hard challenges and we have these life lessons that we learn, they definitely can make us like come out better on the other side, even when it might be very painful. But one thing that we have to remember is like growth is very beneficial to us as people, to us as mothers, brothers, sisters, cousins, all of that good stuff, and just people in the world kind of navigating how things are. But we often resist it. So change is one of those things, or being outside of your comfort zone, to me, is something that, it just makes you feel icky. It makes you feel uncomfortable. No one ever believes me when I say this, but I am like super introverted. So to sit here and record in a living room by myself, with smooth jazz playing is like completely okay for me. But I know a way that I've had to push myself over the years is to say, with the type of career growth that I wanted, with the expectations that I have for myself, with this push and need to want to help others, I can't do that from the chair in my living room. So I'm going to have to get up. I'm going to have to get out, and I'm going to have to get out in front of people. The first time I did a public speaking event in front of others, there's actually video floating around of one that was one of the first large ones that I did. And I felt just like sick to my stomach the entire time. And you'd never be able to tell when you see that, but I still get that same feeling every time I am preparing to go out in public. I actually was just laughing before starting this recording. I told my husband that I feel like I'm getting ready to go live on like international news and everyone in the world's going to see this. And I had butterflies in my stomach. But then as you can see, like it's something that I love. It's something that I enjoy. And so if I just push past the barriers that my body creates against myself and I just keep pushing, I am going to enjoy it on the other end. And then I'm also able to recondition my body and recondition my brain to say, you know what? That actually is not that bad. It actually is not something that it's going to kill me, right? And like really the good news, and this is what I've learned myself, is when you put intentional efforts towards change, you can rewire your brain to embrace discomfort as a signal of growth rather than fear. So I'm going to say that just one more time. With intentional efforts, we can rewire our brains to embrace discomfort as a signal for growth rather than fear. Neuroscientific research has shown that neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to rewire itself, allows us to build resilience and adaptability by consistently exposing ourselves to new challenges. And so it's really, when I think about that and when I hear those types of things, I think like, yeah, well, easier said than done, right? Like the scientists and all of the books and the theory that I can quote to you make it sound like you just pop up one day and you're like, oh, great, welcome, discomfort. I really want you in my life right now. And that's not always the case. And so I want to give you some evidence-based strategies for how you can slowly and intentionally start to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. So the number one thing is to start small. So don't try to skydive if you are scared to stand on a chair. That's the best example that I can give right now. There's a study from Harvard Business Review that found that individuals who gradually expose themselves to discomfort rather than making these extreme changes all at once are more likely to sustain long-term growth. I think, and even for myself, I've been saying this a lot in my new job, like I always want to move super fast. Like I want to just take it all on, solve every problem in a day. And the reality is like I have to be intentional in my actions and be intentional around pacing myself. So you don't have to like change it all in one day. You don't have to make the first move, a move to a whole nother state, right? Like I've had gradual career moves for over 25 years that led me to this point of being able to confidently say, I am going to uproot the family and move to another state. And so that is my first tip, is to start small. I will say that sometimes you can't start small. Sometimes the need for change is so urgent that you have to do a bigger change. And when that's the case, like I really recommend that you find support to help during that change. And so I have my two lovely sisters. I used to have my mom before she passed away in 2020 from cancer. So it's just like that was a big change for me. If we want to talk about change and stepping outside of your comfort zone, it's like, how do you now live without this person that has been so instrumental in every change, every leap, every risk that you've taken? And so I have filled that with my sisters, and thankfully those two, I would call them crazy ladies, are absolutely amazing, and they support me no matter what. So if you can't start small, find the support system. If you don't have the support system already, the world of like LinkedIn and networking and social media is really great to help you find and connect with people who are going through similar changes. The next thing that I'm going to add is like resist or refrain or reframe, the fear of fear as excitement. I'm going to get this right one day. Thankfully, this is just episode 1. But research from the Journal of Experimental Psychology suggests that reinterpreting our anxiety as excitement can improve performance and confidence. And so I suffer from anxiety, and it is something that I have lived with my whole life, but did not realize what it was until my adult life, maybe about 3 years ago. And I tried to do this, and my mind will play tricks on me, and it will say, like, no, be very, very afraid. I just went through 2 days of like my mind kicking in and saying that you need to be very, very afraid, pushing me to doubt some of the decisions I've made recently. And I have to take a minute and just stop everything, took a day off work today, to be able to say, wait a minute, let me reframe what my body and my mind is doing. But you have to be very self-aware, and you also have to be intentional about saying, I need to stop in that moment. And your moment may not be a day. You may only have an hour, 10 minutes, whatever that is. Like to stop yourself in that moment and then say, okay, now I'm going to move forward. Now I'm going to figure this out. I actually channeled my anxiety into this podcast that I'm recording right now. And so when I couldn't sleep last night, I started thinking about creative ways to be able to like express myself, to be able to help others, to be able to be motivating and insightful and all of those lovely things. And Moments with Melonie has been something that's been on my mind for a very long time, but it is that fear that needed to be reframed. It was the fear of putting myself out there. It was the fear of being in a podcast type situation by myself, and all of those things. And so what I did this morning was I said, you know what? I'm going to reframe that fear too, the fear from the fear, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to make this happen. And that's what I did. And so, this idea of reframing fear as excitement is another way that we retrain our brain and how it adapts to the fear that we experience. So this one, the third one here, is so critically important. Like when you think about that term, like crabs in a bucket, and they pull you down, number 3 is all around surrounding yourself with people who are growth minded. I spent a lot of time earlier in my career, not only my professional career, but my educational career, really like playing down my experiences and my accomplishments because I hadn't surrounded myself with the right people. I hadn't surrounded myself with the people who were encouraging. Outside of my family, they have always been my biggest fans. But I wasn't in the right circle, and I wasn't with people who were growth minded. And it starts to kind of tear away at you a little bit. And it starts to make you question, like, should I be doing this? Or, I mean, it just becomes destructive thoughts. And so when we are in fear, our minds can be even more destructive. And so we want to make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with people who are building us up, people who are advocates. Like I said, like my sisters are my biggest fans. It took me till my 40s to find friends that like truly elevated me and helped me to elevate them. And that's really important. So when I'm going through something, actually the decision to take the job, don't take the job, move, uproot the kid, like all of that stuff, I had a strong peer group and a strong sister group that I could go through and say, like, am I crazy? Is this what I should be doing? Am I making a mistake? Like all of those things was just so helpful for me. And we just have to understand that individuals who surround themselves with supportive and ambitious peers are more likely to embrace discomfort. They're more likely to pursue personal and professional development, and they're more likely to grow. And I feel like I have grown more since I've surrounded myself with the right people than I ever did before, or from any book that I've read or degree that I've gotten. And so the value of that network is so, so important. So since this is Moments with Melonie, not Days with Melonie, I am going to wrap this up with just a few final thoughts for you. The biggest breakthroughs in life happen to us when we are outside of our comfort zone. The biggest opportunities have come to me when I have said, I am not going to let fear hold me back, and I am going to jump into something. I'm going to do feet first because I am still cautiously optimistic. So I'm not jumping head first, but I will jump feet first. I will test the waters. I will take the chance. And I have seen the benefits of that. And then growth is not about eliminating fear. Like I said, just 2 days ago, or just this morning, over the last 48 hours, I have dealt with a great deal of fear and concern. And I have reshaped that and reimagined it and made it more about learning how I can move forward despite the fear, or learning how I can embrace the fear to create more, to create something new, and to create something different, which is where we end up today with the podcast that I'm super, super excited about. And then, today I really want to challenge everyone who is listening to this or watching it to take one step, right? Like just take one. Again, it can be small. It does not have to be big. You can be holding the hands of the people who are building you up. And if you do not have those people, you can email me and I will be that person for you. I will have my email and all my contact information, or you can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. But just take one step that pushes you beyond your usual limits. Just take one step to being a little bit uncomfortable. It could be as simple as starting a conversation with someone new, signing up for a class, setting a bold goal, moving halfway across the country for your dream job and having regrets, but not having any regrets. It could be anything. And, I would love to hear about you. I would love to hear about your journey. I am super excited about this podcast and the opportunity to share more thoughts with you, but please share your experiences and your insights with me on social media using the hashtag Moments with Melonie. I am on Instagram. It's Melonie Boone, PhD. I am also on LinkedIn. I share quite a bit of information. I share a lot of articles that range from like business topics to professional, personal growth, self-development. I am a huge fan of self-care, which that's a whole nother podcast that we talk about, that I'll talk about later. But that is, ways to connect with me. I always try to reach out and help when people reach out to me blindly on LinkedIn, when they are not trying to sell me something, but when people reach out because they're looking for guidance or support, I'm always happy to have a conversation. But again, like if you found this episode valuable, Please be sure to subscribe. Please be sure to share. These are genuine moments that I am sharing with everyone. There's no smoke. There's no mirrors. There is a script on my lap, so I will not lie about that. But again, I just want to make sure that I'm providing everyone with just things that you can take home and really put into action. So leave a review, share with someone who needs it, and then we will check back in next time with Moments with Melonie. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.